Good morning and welcome to day 2 of our virtual event, the Internet of Things Experience for Manufacturers, brought to you by Metal Forming Magazine and the Precision Metal Forming Association, along with support from the Control System Integrators Association and from our sponsors, Komatsu, SensorTrex, and IoTCO. I hope you enjoyed and learned a lot from yesterday's presentations, and I also hope that you've taken some opportunity to do a little bit of virtual networking. So to kick off this morning's presentations, I'm happy to welcome Jose Rivera. Jose is the CEO of the Control System Integrators Association, and he'll be providing a presentation titled System Integration to Help Metal Formers Along Their Digital Transformation and IoT Journey. Jose has enjoyed a very successful global career in the automation industry, working in 6 countries, most often in a regional or global role. Since March of 2015, he's been the CEO of the CSIA, working to advance the system integration industry by helping members recognizing emerging trends and pursuing associated business development opportunities. So please welcome Jose.
Hi, I am Jose Rivera, the CEO of CSIA, the Control System Integrators Association. I will be presenting about the role of system integrators to help you in your digital transformation IoT journey. This is the agenda of my presentation. We will go through digital transformation / IoT, beyond the hype, the actual journey, and the role of a system integrator. So let's start with this one. Oftentimes, transformations don't always feel like transformations. In this example that I'm giving you, on the left-hand side, you have a conventional taxi that is being hailed or has been called to provide a transportation from point A to point B to this gentleman. On the right-hand side, you have the equivalent in the newer format, which is through an application, through an app. You're ordering your ride through Uber or Lyft or any of these other companies that are providing this. And from a simple point of view, both systems or both companies are bringing you from point A to point B. So you can say, what's the difference? There are a lot of differences, quite honestly. In the new environment of Uber and others, they actually don't own the cars. They don't employ drivers. They just have an application that brings this community together. Big difference with Uber and Lyft. You don't even have to take money out of your wallet. It's all done through the app. It can find you because you enable the GPS on your phone. It then can also deliver on pricing that is a function of the demand. And these companies are global, so or at least they're present in a lot of different countries, something that in the conventional world, you would have never had that. You would only have regional car taxi companies. So there is a big difference. A few years ago, Uber went into the market, and you can see from the very large capitalization, you could see that it also creates a lot of value that is very different from the older models. But from the outside, it may look the same, which is not. And this is why I say transformation don't always feel like transformations. You are going to be witnessing a lot of presentations on technology, which is all very good because technology is an enabler. But you need to start with the vision of your company first and foremost. And what do I mean by that? If you take a look at the high level, what are your main goals? What are your main pain points today? And what are your current constraints? And you will have probably something listed here. It'll be something about the need to drive cost down, the need to have much higher production flexibility. Several of the companies have seen a big disruption in the demand for their products through the current pandemic. Some of them have seen huge demand, so for the producers of sanitary wipes and disinfectants. And so how can you rapidly increase your production? Others have to deal with change in the supply chains. How do you do that? That is all around flexibility. but you need to start with this from a high level. What is it that you want to accomplish? There is this definition of digital transformation that I like a lot because it really brings it down to technology is an enabler, but it's not the goal. So this definition comes from ARC Advisory Group, and it goes like this: the transformation of industrial products, operations, value chains, and aftermarket services that are enabled through the augmentation of people and knowledge through the expanded use of sensors, data, and analytics. And what you see in this definition is that it's not just the manufacturing, it goes beyond that. It goes into the value chains, it goes into the aftermarket services, it goes into the operations. It is also not envisioning a lights out automation of your plant. It is actually keeping the people in it, and you want to augment their capabilities and their knowledge. And you do that because you are leveraging technology in the forms of sensors, data, and analytics. I like this definition a lot because it's a big picture definition. So many of you may have heard the term Industry 4.0. It was coined by the German government, and it has been widely adopted, and I like it a lot. I just bring it to this presentation because if you go back to Industry 3.0, and you see this here in the center, it was around manufacturing, and it provided all these different systems, integrated systems, all around the manufacturing floor. Industry 4.0, just visually, you can see how it expands to go all the way back to the raw material supply, other suppliers, inbound logistics, and then after the product has been made, it goes into outbound logistics, sales, marketing, all the way to the customer. So it's like a very comprehensive, broad value stream that you're now integrating. But let's go down to the realities of most of you in the audience, which are managing smaller companies. And this particular one happens to be in the flat rolled steel supply and coal processing plant. I actually visited this plant, and let me explain for those who are not familiar with this. This type of plants, they receive steel coils and they will store them, they will warehouse them for their clients. And when their clients place an order, what they'll do is they'll take the steel rolls, they straighten them, they cut them basically into triangles and rectangles. They put them in a crate, load up the truck, and out it goes. So that is the process, relatively simple. When I visited, this was presented as a digital plant, and I must say that I was a little bit disappointed because the machines that were there were machines from the 80s, 90s, so good, expensive machines, but they were not what was envisioning as a digital plant. After they gave us the tour, I completely changed my perception of this because in my view, most of the opportunities related to digital transformation in mature economies like the United States will deal with a big brownfield of existing equipment. And the idea is not to go in and rip everything out and place new machines in. This is not realistic. It is like do the most of what you have installed and add some sensors, some software, train up employees, and leverage what you have. So in this particular case, this is what they did. So they integrated the existing machines into a comprehensive system. So think of it as the system that is now taking the orders, providing all the shipping instructions, etc. So for that, they had to go into the machines on the floor. They added some sensors, some gateways to get information out and transmit wirelessly into the office. Then they put operator terminals on the production floor to provide the operators with up-to-date instructions and process-relevant information like KPIs. So they eliminated the paper. In the past, what they would do is earlier in the morning, they would print out all the instructions for the day, hand this out to the operators on the floor, and here you go. But as we all know, things change, and what you had in paper is no longer relevant. So the operator that was at the end of the processing, this was the person that was doing the crates on top of which you would have like the cut pieces, go into the track, that person would never use the paper instructions because he could never trust it. So he would go measure it on the fly, build his crates. When they put this operator terminals, this person now could see what was coming, and he knew what he needed to cut to fit the size of the production. And then what they also did is, because they now had the information from all the different machines, they were able to monitor them, look for utilization, and identify and remove constraints, always to drive continuous improvement. One of the things that they found out, for example, quite obvious, but this helped them visualize that, was that they had, for the machine that represented the bottleneck of their processing, 2 big breaks, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. And that was when the operator went to get their coffee breaks. So what they did is, like, they said, okay, let's shift this a little bit, have a second employee come take over this big machine that was the bottleneck and continue the production. So they didn't have to stop. So this is what the office, what the plant looked like. So the same diagram, but everyone had now a terminal that was connected wirelessly to this office that did all the scheduling and had the master system. So if you want, you are connecting now OT, operations technology, with IT, which is the one that was running all the scheduling. They did that very smartly. They may have added some barcode readers here on the receiving end, and the ones that would have for their warehousing also here. But then they had operator terminals such that the operator knew what they were supposed to be doing next. And back to my story about the person doing the crating, they would now be able to trust what was coming in terms of an order. So this is, I think, a relatively simple example of a brownfield where some intelligence was put in by adding a few sensors, some gateways, modifying the systems, but then also, very importantly, training the people. So when people ask me, is this digital transformation? Is this IoT? Well, I will say it's a very solid start. The word transformation is still a question mark. I did not stay long enough to understand whether they now were able to drive down delivery times or any of this. And what this company will probably also be doing today is, like, they will have to check if their vision, was asking for further refinement investment to deliver on this refinement. So, example, where are the new bottlenecks? And will they be able to eliminate these bottlenecks by investing? And will they have the required ROI? All these important questions. I don't have the answers for you, but as we all know, with continuous improvement, you go to the next level, and now that you have data from your machines, ideally from all your supply chain, you're now able to do better decision making and hopefully build better ROI cases. And I end this example with, technology is an enabler, not the goal. They didn't just decide to put a couple of technology dancing robots on the floor. No, they wanted to solve some problems that they had, and technology allowed them to do it. So how to start digital transformation IoT journeys? I find that having a framework allows you to guide your thoughts. Digital transformation and IoT provide so many opportunities, it is easy to get lost. If you have a framework, especially one that has been tested by others, you're leveraging their experience. It helps expedite your deployment, and all these critical aspects that need to be considered and addressed, somebody will have come up with the list, and this is what this framework provides to you. You still need to go into and build this framework out for your specific situation, but you are now going through, you're not starting with a blank sheet, which is a good thing. There are probably multiple of these frameworks. I will refer to the one of the Singapore Smart Industry Readiness Index. This is available on the website for free. You can Google this with these words, you'll get it. It's a pretty practical framework. I have received a lot of good input. It's not our framework, just to be totally clear. It's developed by this Economic Board out of Singapore, and they did that in conjunction with the German TUV. I recommend it. So here's what this is all about. If you keep it at the high level, you have three big buckets. One is process, the other one is technology, and the other one is organization. Back to my repetition here. Technology is just one of three key important elements. Process here, and you'll see that on the next slide, it refers to how integrated you are when it comes to your processes, your machines, your supply chains, how you develop your products. Technology refers to automation and how you have your systems connected. An organization now refers to who you have on the floor, how you're leveraging their knowledge, how are you building this to get you to the next level, all these good things. But key, it's three buckets. Technology is one of the three. What I have done is I've taken this framework and I have put my own summary. And I'll say it again, if you download this, you will see all the definitions and you will have to develop this for you. But when it comes to this vertical integration, what they want to ensure is that you have seamless data going from the IT side to the OT side. If you refer back to my steel rolls example, they were able to connect their scheduling system, which is IT, with whatever was on the plant, which was straightening, cutting, and building crates. And so they had this connectivity. It was a modest example, but this you can develop for your needs. Horizontal integration refers to the integration of processes across value chains. So you will have much more complex systems than the one that I outlined. But in this particular case before, you should know, for example, that if you are building something on a production line, if the last piece of your production line, if the last machiner is on your production line has stopped, you need to stop upstream too. Otherwise, you're going to create a chaos on the production floor. These type of things require integration. Integrated product lifecycle. Here is like for those of you who are designing products. In my previous example, it was just cutting, but this could be more complex. You can be developing products for a car manufacturer. And now you are into this design stage. So how are you doing this? Are you developing this on a CAD CAM such that all the work that you did on your CAD, you can download into your machines, et cetera, et cetera. So those are good questions to ask. When it comes to automation, flexibility is something that is big here because we know that products keep changing with the demands, but also with the flavors if you're in the consumer markets, etc. So it's important to be able to have my processes that are flexible. Automation gives you a big advantage on that. We go into the connectivity of the different systems, into the intelligence, which is like the ability to extract data and do something smart with it, and then with the organization. And we're talking here about strong leadership. We're talking about governance. We're talking about collaboration, which is in some places not the case. So you have to develop that. And this is back to why can digital transformation be a challenge? Well, because it's not just about deploying technology, it's transforming the culture of your companies. One example that I like to cite is when we started getting into quality, and we would see the production line of Toyota where any person on the production line could pull the red cord, which would stop the whole production. So in the days before that, it was viewed as you never stop the production line. You'll correct things later on, but the show must go on. The production needs to keep running, which was totally challenged by Toyota. And they said, we are not going to filter the quality out. We're going to build it in. And if there is a problem, we stop the production line, bring the teams here to try to solve this problem, because this problem is most likely going to affect all the other cars in the back. So as you can see, that is a simple example, but it's a mega change of culture. You're empowering everyone that is on that production line. So I tried to come up with what could be practical guideline when you're venturing into digital transformation. My recommendation is, and by the way, I build this recommendation of what I have seen other companies do. But the good ones, they have developed a team. It's a cross-functional team, and you dedicate them with the resources because you want to ask them to figure out what does digital transformation means for us. There is no universal definition. There is no universal roadmap. You have to define this for your company. And back to my story about like, what do you want to accomplish? Well, you need to answer, is it that you're after higher manufacturing flexibility? Are you trying to increase your OEE? What is it that you're trying to do? And you need to have this cross-functional team craft this vision, first because you need to own it, second because they are the ones really to figure out what it is that you're struggling with today. And the cross-functional is because it helps you gauge the complexity of deploying it down the road. Upper management needs support this, and in a big way. We're talking about big change management, and we all know that this is not easy, but it can be done and needs to be done. So upper management needs to be providing support. It needs to receive visibility into the process, and it needs to get the organization aligned. There need to be regular internal communications campaign going on. You need to involve and gain buy-in from the entire organization. Some of you who are listening in know that some automation processes have been viewed by some of the people on the operations as being done to eliminate jobs. And this is absolutely not the case. What digital transformation is about is, again, not about a lights out manufacturing. It is about elevating the role of the operator. If this operator is provided with more advanced tools, this operator will be able to make better decisions. And this is not fancy wording. In my example of that plant, the operator that had now this monitor, they would have some KPIs, they would have an advanced view of what was coming down for their manufacturing. So they had some ability to decide and time things in and out. One example could be, for example, predictive maintenance or condition-based monitoring. And imagine that you have this operator riding this bottleneck big machine. And this operator is now getting some indication that they may need to do some preventive or some condition-based maintenance on this machine. If this operator is provided with this information early on, he or she can decide to postpone a little bit, finish this run that they have, and then take it out of production for some maintenance. But you are elevating that operator's role through data. You are providing this data and let them decide. Big transformation, change management component. And because digital transformation is big in its scope, you may want to bring in experts when your internal resources are either overloaded or they don't have the expertise. And so this is, on one hand, system integrators, but you may have other needs that are related to organizational change, et cetera, et cetera. So just keep in mind that you're not alone and there are experts that can help you. I want to share this example from Trelleborg Group. This is a multinational specialty chemicals company headquartered out of Sweden, but with plants all over the world. So they presented this last year at the automation conference here in Chicago, and I thought it was like very eye-opening. So they created a team. The team was tasked to define what it was that digital transformation meant for them, and they created this vision. So they called it Production Intelligence Maturity Model. They provided 5 stages: connected, visible, predictable, adaptive, intelligent for it. And they went then to explain what that meant. So for the first stage of connected, what you're doing is you're trying to establish connectivity to the network and the machines. In my example of that plant, the machines were not connected. They were operating on their own, so you could not get that data out. They put some gateways, some sensors, you get that data out. And this is what this is meant by this connectivity. And then what they wanted to do is make things visible. So they integrated some MES, which is like a manufacturing execution software, but what it is, it's a platform. So you could have your KPIs. It was all shared, so it was one version of the truth. And then they had this vertical integration of the systems and the platforms. So again, this is like on what they put here. I put this red box, I put it to indicate that this is where they are today. They have been spending a lot of their resources to get this done. What happens today? On the connected side, you have a lot of machines that were just bought on their merits, but they were never bought with capability for connection. Because maybe at that time it was not available, 80s, early 90s, right? So this has to be done. Sometimes the machines came with equipment, automation equipment from one vendor, and the other machine came from this other vendor. So you need to do a patchwork to get it all connected. So there is a challenge to get this done. There's like no question about it. And on the visible side of things, okay, so like once you establish this, you can get to this level, and they're working on that. So it requires a while to get that completed. But once you get into the next level, you're now moving into the predictive space. So now what you're doing is you have the data. Now you can start doing analysis on this data. You can identify patterns, trends, correlations, all those good things that in the past you couldn't because you didn't have the data. Some more sophisticated processes will go into digital twins, which is basically, think of it like an avatar of your assets. And I know that this will not apply to every single one that is watching this presentation, but what I'm trying to say is that once you develop this framework, you can now extend it for your needs. In their case, it was important. They're developing, you know, specialty chemicals, so they could develop a digital twin for a special chemical cracking process or a whole plant, right? So all of that is worth their while. They want to go all the way here, you know, where you have some of the decisions being, you know, delegated to this factory intelligence. This is the last piece, and they view it more like human-machine collaboration than it is as replacement. But I'm just sharing this with you because it's important to recognize where you are today and where you can go all the way. And this was not given to them. They developed this internally following like the Singapore framework, and all their creativity of this team applied to their specific company. So I'm now coming to this part about what is the role for the system integrator. As you heard me say before, data is fundamental to digital transformation and IoT. And you will hear this over and over. But to extract the data is the very first major challenge for most. You have in brownfields, and this is most of the opportunity in mature economies like the US, you have machines and plants that were not designed with data capturing and sharing in mind. They were designed to optimize the machine performance, and that's good. But now we are at a different level. And because you have legacy systems, these are the systems that were used to run the machine, etc., from different vendors, and they need to be networked into a cohesive system. And of course, you have to observe cybersecurity protections because that is like a big threat when you're now putting things wirelessly. So those are big considerations. And once you have the data to make it visible and put into context, we're now engaging into displays, systems like MES and others. And quite honestly, these are the traditional areas of expertise of system integrators. So if you're bringing a system integrator and you have it all figured out in terms of what you want to do, but now you need to make it happen by integrating all the machines that you have on the manufacturing floor, who's going to help you with that? A good system integrator can help you. That is what they do on a daily basis. But for system integrators, digital transformation is also creating a new opportunity for them. They can help deploy all these additional steps that will follow with more complex systems, deploying adaptive and intelligent systems. And some system integrators have also gotten into performing some assessments on the capabilities of your teams for digital transformation. So if you bring the system integrator in early, and you will have to review and you'll need to have the conversations, because system integrators cover a big field, and they cover a big field of verticals and applications within verticals. So you will have to do your due diligence, and I'll tell you what my recommendation is for that. But they can become your trusted advisor in the early stages and then ongoing transformation projects. So here's what I was trying to tell you about how to find the right system integrator for you. CSIA has a platform, we call it the Industrial Automation Exchange. It's csiaexchange.com. Once you get here, you see this tab called Find an Integrator. So if you go in there, you will have the possibility to request an integrator that is either a specialist in a certain platform, that it is in a certain geography, that has specialized in a certain vertical. There are all these filters that I will not bother you with. And then you can reach them, and you can then have a conversation with them and engage them in your project. This is what I had for you. I am Jose Rivera, the CEO of CSIA. Here's my contact information. Here's the website of our association and also of our exchange. And I look forward to having a conversation with you to go deeper into this exciting area of digital transformation, IoT.